Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for joining me for another wire wrap tutorial. Today we're going to be making this gorgeous little planter that also features a nice little crystal hanging from the bottom. If you'd like to learn how to make this, stay tuned. So today we'll be wrapping a planter that we're going to put this succulent in, and I purchased this from Ace Hardware. And we're going to be using one of these little clay pots, and I got these 3 for $1 from the Dollar Tree. I also have some 20 gauge half round wire. And my base wires for my cage are going to be 18 gauge square. And I have 4 pieces of these cut at 13 inches long each. The chain I'll be using to hang the planter from is 3 by 4 millimeter chain. And to hang from the bottom of the planter, we're going to wrap this little crystal. And for the crystal, we will use 20 gauge square dead soft copper wire and 22 gauge half round dead soft copper wire. And fun fact, I dug this crystal up myself from the Rocky Mountains. All right, I'm going to start out by straightening all of my 18 gauge base wires. All right, and I'm going to mark each of these wires at 6.5 inches because that's a halfway point, and that's where I'm going to want to bend them. And I'm just marking them with a dry erase marker, thin point, and then I'll be able to just wipe that ink off when I'm done. Now I'm going to bend each wire at a 90-degree angle with my nylon pliers. Alright, so we are going to start constructing our cage for this pot, and we just want to use this bottom point for a reference as we're weaving these together. Using some blue painter's tape, we're going to go ahead and tape these 2 base wires together. And using some of our 20 gauge half round wire, we're going to go ahead and wrap these together right at the base. And you want to go ahead and leave a tail coming out on this end. You want to go ahead and take your tail here and just wrap it around the middle there. And I'm just going to check my pot for reference to see how far I want to coil these around my base wires. And I do want these to come to the edge of the pot here, so I'm going to keep coiling. I'm going to go ahead and check this against my pot again. And I'm almost at the edge here, so I think I'm going to give it just a couple more coils and then count them. All right, so I'm going to give this one more coil. All right, so that's coiled around 18 times. So that's how many times I want to coil all these other base wires as I get them put on. We're going to go ahead and add our second base wire here. I'm just going to come in here and straighten this out a little better. Get it a little more lined up. There you go. Because I want to be able to wrap this twice around this wire. I think I want to go ahead and start wrapping this one before I tape it onto the others, and I'll show you why. I'm going to take a strip of my 20 gauge half round, and I'm actually going to start it in the middle of this wire, because then we can use this tail to wrap this wire, and we can use this tail to wrap this wire. So I want to get this started. As you can see, I didn't plan this out properly, and I probably should have cut a longer piece of half round wire to do this, because I'm actually running out of wire before I get to my full 18 coils. But not to worry, I can just go ahead and add another piece of half round wire to this to finish it out. And I'll just make sure that I am snipping these and tucking them into the same direction as these other two that I've already finished off. All right, so now we have the base of our frame. Before we shape our frame onto this pot, we want to go ahead and make a little loop that we're going to put through this hole It's also going to go through this hole of the cage as well, and that loop is where we're going to hang our crystal when we're all finished. So I'm going to take some 18 gauge round. I'm going to cut about 4.5 inches. One end of this wire we're going to want to spiral down so that when we shove it through this hole, that spiral is going to keep the wire from coming through the hole. So to do that, what I want to do is bend this wire about halfway down, like this, and then I want to make my spiral with this tail of the wire here. Because we want our hoop to be in the center of this spiral. So I'm going to get it going like this in my baling pliers. That's what we want it to look like. And then we're going to go ahead and curve this around just a couple more times. Doesn't have to be pretty, it's going to be hidden under the plant. All right, so now we're going to put our cage on, and the first thing we want to do is put our little 18 gauge wire through the hole here. And when you're putting your cage on, remember which side you snipped off the ends of your half gauge wire, because that's the side that you want facing your pot. All right, so we're just going to give this a little bend. And then what we want to do is make our loop down here. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and snip this wire. And then I'm just going to take my baling pliers and make my loop. All right, I'm gonna want to come down here with my bent nose pliers and tweak this a little bit. All right, and that's what we have. And that's where we're gonna hang our crystal once we get that wrapped. Okay. So now we can start shaping our cage around our pot. All right, I'm just going to go around and make sure that these are straight. All right, now I'm going to start pulling these to connect them. All right, once I have a shape that I like, I want to go ahead right where these wires are crossing and pinch them with my pliers. Okay. And that's just going to get the bend going for me, and then I can finish them off separately. And so now I want to connect these two wires with my 20 gauge half round. You want to get it going just on one of your wires. And now you can go ahead and wrap both of them. And I'm just going to give this 5 wraps. And I want to finish this off by tucking this wire underneath my cage. Now I'm going to do the same thing with my wires all around the pot. One thing I did want to take a moment to mention is that working with the half round wire can be difficult with a pattern like this. So for beginners, it's probably easier to use a regular round wire for these weaves. I would recommend at least a 26 gauge, if not a 24 gauge wire, and I would recommend wrapping those around at least 8 to 10 times. But I like the way that the half round looks, and so I suffer through the struggles of working it around the base wire and getting it untangled from itself and flipping it back over and keeping it nice and straight. But be aware, if you want to use a different round wire for these weaves, go ahead and do that if it's easier for you. Now we're going to do the same thing with our second layer here. We're just going to be pulling these together and connecting them with our half round wire. And I'm going to use the rim of my pot as my measuring tool for where I want these to bend. And so now we want to get some loops going at the top of the pot to be able to hang our chain from. And I'm not going to do anything all that fancy here. Basically, I just want to loop these around each other so they're interlocked and then have them going over the edge of the pot so that they're attached to the edge of the pot. I'm going to take this right wire and I'm going to bring it behind the left wire. And then I'm going to just loop it around. Then I'm going to take the other wire and I'm going to loop it around in the opposite direction. And then I'm just going to bend this first wire into the rim of the pot. And then I'm going to snip off the end and tighten it down with my pliers. And I'm going to continue looping this wire around, and I'm going to actually bring it up under this first wire. And I'm just going to finish this one off by pushing it over the rim of the pot, just like I did the first one. And then I'm going to snip off the end and squeeze it down gently with my pliers. And I'm just going to follow that same pattern around the rest of the pot. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and wrap our crystal, and just a little fun fact, this is called Harlequin quartz, and me and my husband and my mom dig these up in the Rocky Mountains, and I don't know if you can tell, but there is a little rainbow inside of this crystal when the light hits it just right. So I have got two pieces of about 9.5 inches of wire here, and it doesn't really matter how long. I really am not trying to do anything very fancy. I just want to get this crystal trapped in a cage so that I can hang it from the pot. And you can really wrap anything to hang from your planter. You don't have to do a crystal. You can hang beads, you can wrap some other kind of stone. There's a lot of different options if you don't have a crystal like this. Just be creative with it. So I'm going to go ahead and get some of the kinks worked out of these wires. Once I have these nice and straight, I'm going to go ahead and take some of this 22 gauge half round wire, and I'm going to just take a look at my crystal here. And that's about halfway down the wire. Once I have this bent around the crystal, it should be almost even on both sides. So that's where I'm going to put my wire. Just hug that crystal with your wire. Okay, so that's our little frame we created. Now we're going to tie this side together. Alright, and so we just want to continue wrapping this wire around the tops here to kind of create a little cage and continue to trap the stone in there. Okay, so these two sides are going to kind of trap the top edges in for us. And then we just kind of want to work our way with these wires. Get a little bit of a bail going. And I'm going to take this back wire and wrap it around all three of these to bring them together. So that's a little loose, so I'm going to tweak some of these wires to kind of tighten this up around the crystal. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and wrap two of these wires together and leave one separate to play around with. And I'm just going to be using some more of the 22 gauge half round wire to wrap these. And I don't really have a pattern or anything. I'm just going to go ahead and work on closing these off around the top and doing something just a little bit decorative to make it look pretty. And then I'm just gonna tie this off with a little half round wire. And there's our crystal, and it's very simple, but it's nice and secure in the cage. All right, and now we're gonna go ahead and hammer out our S hooks, and we're gonna have, I think 6 total, because we're gonna need an S hook for each of the 4 of these. We're gonna need 1 S hook for our crystal down at the bottom, and then we're gonna need an S hook for our chains at the top. So I'm using 16 gauge copper dead soft wire, and I'm just gonna cut about 2 inches. And I'm going to form these S hooks with the largest section on my baling pliers. And then I'm going to just hammer them all down to strengthen them. All right, so I've got everything oxidized. The way that I oxidized my cage on the pot was I just dipped a paintbrush into my liver of sulfur water mixture and painted my patina on to my pot. And then I just scrubbed it with steel wool as usual. And I have cut 4 lengths of chain at 7 inches each. And we're going to go ahead and get our chain and everything connected to the planter. So I'm going to start by connecting all 4 of the chains to the top S hook. Then I'm going to add an S hook to the bottom of each chain. Then I'm going to add the crystal to the bottom, and finally I'm just going to attach my chains to the loops on my pot. All right, so here's our finished planter. I think this is super cute. This is a really fun option for gifts for people who don't necessarily wear jewelry, and the design can definitely be adjusted for larger pots as well. You can also find a lot of ways to make this design your own. So thanks so much for joining me for this project today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to help me make more of these tutorials, please hit the like button and consider sharing on your social medias, because that's really what helps my channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified every time I upload a new wire wrap tutorial. I just want to end by saying have a fantastic day, and remember to love your neighbor, and in all things treat others as you want to be treated, for this is the law and the prophets. God bless you guys, and I hope to see you in the next video.